Hello everyone, Helen here. Thanks for coming to join me. And big welcome to everybody. If you're new, that's brilliant. And maybe if you enjoy spending time with me today, you might like to subscribe or just like the video. But anyway, welcome to everybody. This is my little place where I just mostly chat about all the creative things that I do, with a few other things thrown in, all sorts actually. You never know what's going to be in my podcasts. And I've called today's one, I've had a few problems, and I just need to declare right from the outset that I haven't had anything major. There's no big life problems happening. I know some YouTubers use these taglines to kind of grab attention to people, and quite often if I have gone to that kind of video, I've been a bit disappointed because it's really not what their video was about. It's just like a tiny bit of it with some, it's all a bit sensationalist. It is just to try and attract viewers. And I understand that, that's fine. But I'm not trying to attract more viewers. I genuinely have had a few problems, but they're in the crafty creative world, nothing major. So no worries there. Before I go on today, I first of all want to say a really big thank you, huge thank you to all of you who wrote comments on last week's podcast, my 100th podcast. I was really humbled by all the kind and supportive and appreciative words that so many of you said, and I just felt really loved and like I've got lots of friends all over the world. So thank you so much for that. So that was that. And also thank you to anybody who's been and visited my new Ko-fi page, which I just opened last week. And I'm really touched that some of you wanted to treat me to a cup of coffee or whatever. So the little donation that you can make, because really I've started my Ko-fi account as a place where I can sell things from time to time. So I don't want to have any major shop online, but this is just going to be a little place where I can sell things occasionally. And I wanted to offer the Sheepy photo calendar that I made for sale. So you're able to order one of those if you would like to. And the orders are open until the 24th of October 2022, just in case you're watching this in a future year. And after that, I'll be able to know how many to order. But a really big thank you. It's much appreciated, those of you who have been there. And if you want to go there and order a calendar or treat me to a coffee, the information is in the description box, and it should take you just to my page. So that's that. I've got my notebook here on my lap because I've got so many little things to remember to tell you. So another thing that I appreciated in the comments was just when you are able to offer me a little bit of advice. So I had some advice on making my sleeping arrangements a bit more comfortable in the campervan, so I'm looking into that now, so thank you. And I had one or two suggestions for Pearl and Dean for Pearl really, for her autumn wardrobe, and you can probably just about tell that she is wearing some new clothes, but more about that in a little while. And anything else before I get on to my projects? So one final thing, and that is another thing that a few people have mentioned in comments, not just last week but at other times, is that they like watching podcasts where I'm talking about journaling of some sort. And I've been meaning for ages to make a playlist, so I have now finally made a playlist which is called Podcasts That Mention Journaling. So if you're interested in going back to see those, if you go and find those episodes, most of them are not wholly about journaling, but I always put timestamps in the description box So you can then just find the bit about journaling if you click on the time next to where it says journaling. So hopefully that will help you if you want to go and look back at those. Right, okay, so I think that was all the introductory things I wanted to say. So on to my projects. And so let's start off with socks. Right, I haven't had a big problem with these socks, but the thing I've had the biggest problem with is this blanket here. So I'll come to that in a moment. And I think I'm going to put my notebook down. So yes, so the socks, I have got to the end of the first sock. And yeah, I've just got to do the Kitchener stitch at the end to graft the toe. And the reason that, I mean, this has been sitting like this probably for a week, over a week, just waiting, because the little notions pouch that I have that actually matches this bag that I always have my sock knitting in, has just vanished. So, you know, can you believe, do you have this problem that you've probably got loads of pairs of scissors? I've got at least, I think, I don't know, 6 little pairs of scissors and lots of needles for, you know, sewing your knitting up and crochet. Well, yeah, but can you find them? Quite often you can't find them. They're not with you wherever you're knitting. So yeah, so I've got no further with that sock, just because of that little problem of your little notions pouch. Or I mean, I've got them in different places around the house. I'm in the craft room. I've probably got 2 or 3 in here. But can you actually find them at the point that you need them? Oh, I don't know. That's, yeah, you see what I mean? It's not major problems I'm talking about today. And in fact, my jumper hasn't had any problems at all. So I'll show you how far I've got. Because last week I showed you that I'd taken it away with me on holiday and I'd done about this much of the front. I started the front while I was on holiday. And so this is the Fenella Sweater, which, yes, I'm knitting it on a circular needle, but it's not knitted in the round. They are just flat pieces. I just like knitting on circulars, especially when travelling, because then I don't have any knitting needles sticking out anywhere. So you see, I'll just hold it up properly. I've got a long way up the front of my jumper now, and in fact I've just started doing the decreases for the arm shaping. So yeah, so that's good. We're actually making progress. If I have had any problem with this, it's just been that I've knitted it really slowly. And in fact, I didn't pick it up much at all over the summer. When did I start it? I mean, pretty near the start of this year. And I said then that I would like it to be finished by the autumn. And well, I might get there now. We've just started to get some chillier weather, so yeah. Oh, fingers crossed I'll get that ready. Right, so let's talk about the blanket. You move, Tina. This blanket here. So this is a blanket that I started making when I was away in the camper van. Oops, oh sorry, it's not, oh, got a bit stuck here. Oh, let's see. Right, so here it is, and I have actually finished it. So this is it. So it looks okay, doesn't it? But I have had quite a few problems. So I've got a list of my problems down here. It comes to about 6 problems I've had with it. Right, but again, nothing major really. So my first problem was that I'd forgotten that I didn't really like crocheting with chunky weight yarn, or I think that's bulky in American and other places. But yeah, so I don't really like using yarn, and this yarn that's in the centre of the blanket I'd had in my stash for absolutely years, I think. So, and obviously being chunky, it was taking up quite a bit of space as well. I had 6 balls of it. Can't remember what it was called. I'll put the names on the screen, so go along. But anyway, so I had 600 gram balls of this, and I mean, I hadn't been going very long when I realised that using chunky yarn just doesn't suit me. I don't know why, but I always get an aching shoulder when I'm using chunky yarn. And it's not really that the handle of the crochet hook is any thicker than any of my other crochet hooks, because I use the ones with the coloured handles. Can't remember who makes them, but I don't know what it is about chunky yarn that just ends up giving me an achy shoulder. Maybe it's not that. Maybe, I don't know. It's a mystery to me. And so that was the first problem, that I kept getting an achy shoulder. And next problem, well, the 600 gram balls were not enough yarn to make a blanket of the size I wanted. It would have been all right if I was making a baby blanket, and even just about a lap blanket, but actually, no, it wasn't big enough for what I wanted it for. I was making it for my son. So I decided I needed to find some more yarn, and I found that. So another problem, the yarn that I was using to start off with is discontinued, and I couldn't find it anywhere on the internet. So I thought, right, I'll have to find another kind that will, blend in, so to speak. So when I did a corner to corner pattern, and I'll put a link to it in the description box. It was a free pattern that I found on Ravelry. So I just used the first 3 balls of yarn as I was increasing, and then the other 3 balls of yarn to decrease. I can get it the right way around. And so then I had a square blanket, and then I decided that I needed to extend outwards. So I had a long look for yarns that would be compatible with this one here, and I couldn't find anything quite 100% that matched it. And I think this one that I've chosen, again, I never remember the names of the yarns. This one that I've chosen, I'll show you a picture now anyway, is slightly, I think it's slightly thicker than the one that I've used for the centre. I think the colours of this one blend in okay with the centre. I'm not so sure about the one that I've used for the squares that I decided to do in each corner. So I decided to work just outwards from each edge of the square with granny stripes, and then fill in the gap with a square of a different colour. I'm not sure if that's worked. I'm not sure if I like it. But anyway. So anyway, my next major problem with the blanket was when I started to introduce this other yarn, and it was really hard because it was a corner to corner blanket. It was really hard to tell along the edge where to put my crochet hook to put stitches. So I just did a row of DC, or single crochet or double crochet in UK terms, along the edge. And my first attempt, I obviously had far too many stitches, and it kind of, it went into a curvy shape, which is not what I wanted. So I decided that I pulled it all out, and I decided to go down a hook size and do fewer stitches. So instead of 132 stitches along the edge, I did 120, and that seemed to be just about right. And I was kind of, after a couple of rows, I just checked that I wasn't getting the curve again. The next thing that happened was that in my stripes along the edge, I decided I would do 12 stripes. I didn't think this through, because then the balls of yarn that I was using were 200 grams, and I didn't think about actually weighing the yarn, because I'd only bought 200 gram balls of this colour. I didn't think about weighing the yarn before I just ploughed on with the number of rows I thought I would do. So it turned out that 12 rows was too many. It was more than half of the ball of yarn. So, because when I started on the next side, I only got to, did I get to 9 rows of granny stitch before I ran out of yarn. So I had to then take out some rows, 2 rows. I decided I needed to take out 2 rows of the first edge that I'd done. And oh dear me. Anyway, so it was fine from there on. And but still, just before kind of the final thing, I also, this yarn that I was using ended up with, just occasionally there was a really extra thick bit of yarn in the ball of yarn, so it really stands out like a sore thumb. Well, it does to me anyway. It won't be, and in the grand scheme of things, when the blanket's being used, nobody will notice. But there's this big, splodgy, thick bit now and then of a different colour, which I don't like very much. And there were quite a few places where the yarn was knotted, where it had obviously snapped and would just be knotted. I hate it when that happens. And it doesn't matter so much when it's a chunky blanket, I know, but it's still a bit irritating. Yeah, so then, so I added my squares, and as I've already said, I don't know whether those, I'm not sure whether that was the right choice of colours. It kind of goes, but yeah, and then I just did a couple of rounds to finish it off. But when I lay it out on the floor now, it doesn't lie flat. And so I just altogether feel a bit kind of, can you tell? a bit disgruntled with this blanket. Still, it'll be nice and warm, and nobody will notice any of these little imperfections that have annoyed me along the way. So there we go. Yes, so what next? Gnome. Yeah, well, I haven't, here's my latest gnome, and this is actually my September gnome for the Year of Gnomes make-along that Sarah Shearer is running on Instagram and Ravelry. And so the thing with this is that by the end of September, I'd only knitted his hat. And he's still not finished, because he's actually is a gnome pattern I haven't tried before. I bought a yarn kit from the lovely Lucy of Lucy Locket Land, and gorgeous colours, hand dyed yarn that she produces, and yeah, perfect for this gnome, which actually looks quite Christmassy. I had a problem with his beard, and partly because I haven't done this kind of thing before, partly because I think I would have liked it to have been a little bit better explained, and so the first beard I did completely went wrong, but this one's okay. It worked out the second time, so that was all right. And yeah, it's not finished because this is actually a gnome that has legs, and I just haven't got round to doing his legs. Hopefully I'll get it done before the end of October, and then I need to do an October gnome, don't I? However, we don't need to be a slave to these things. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't matter. And I'm not actually entering my gnomes for the kind of, it's not really competition, but you can, if you put your photos of your gnome onto a place in Ravelry, then you are in with a chance of winning something. But I wasn't doing it for that. I just fancied knitting a gnome every month. So maybe next time I chat to you, he might have his legs. He's kind of all right like that, but I really do want to finish the pattern, so he'll be nice with some legs. So that's him. Okay then, so some of the little, really tiny little problems that I had when we were away in the campervan, I've found some solutions through crochet, and I'm gradually going to be covering everything in the campervan with crochet. That's what it feels like. That's what my husband thinks anyway. So the first thing that I decided I wanted to make was a cover for my drink bottle. Actually, it's just here. Because just really for when it's in the campervan, because it goes in the door of the campervan, and the space for a drink bottle is actually wider than this. This is a fairly narrow one, and quite often, unless I stuff something around it, it falls over and makes quite a clunk. And I was also a bit worried about you know, it wearing off the beautiful pattern on the side of the bottle as well. So I've made it a bottle cover, and I'll put a link in the description box as to where I found a free pattern for this, although I started it off as the pattern said, and then actually I had to kind of do my own thing to make sure it fitted this bottle. And that is I used Karen Cotton Cake, which is you know, gradually changes colour, so it's lovely. It's really nice. I'm really pleased with that. So that was one solution that I found. Another thing in the camper van is that we decided that the best place to keep our 2 mugs was just in the little sink with the kettle, and so the only thing that happens is that if you don't position them quite right, then when you're going along, you know, you do get a clinking sound as the mugs touch each other when you're going over bumps and things. So I decided that the solution to that would be to make each mug a little mug cosy, and then it doesn't matter if they touch each other. So I'm really pleased with these, and I found the patterns again for free online, and I'll put the details below. So that's good. And then also in the camper van, our new set of pans that we bought, we were still using the bits of padding that came in with the pans, so that the one pan doesn't scratch the non-stick surface of the one below. And so I needed to do something about that, because I didn't want these bits of polystyrene-y stuff as a permanent thing. So knitted a little round mat to go in there, and then also the pan handles again were just wrapped in this packaging material really, so they now have a little bag of their own. So I'm really happy about that, and yeah, it was very satisfying to go and put them into the van. Right, so I think the final thing is Pearl and her new outfit, because I said, I think last time, that she was really starting to feel a little bit chilly now that autumn had arrived, and so I decided to make her a nice new outfit. I'm sure it won't be the last things I make for her, because she probably needs a hat or a, you know, ear warmer, and maybe a coat with a hood. Oh, I've got all sorts of plans, because I love making dolls' clothes. I love dolls, and I love making dolls' clothes. But anyway, so I started with a pair of dungarees for her. All the patterns for the clothes are by Julie Williams, who's Little Cotton Rabbits, and I bought those patterns on Ravelry. And yeah, so I've made the dungarees. I've been using Scapy's Stone Washed for all of her clothes. It feels so lovely as clothes, really nice and soft. I mean, I know she's a doll and it doesn't matter if I use rough wool, but you know what I mean. It feels nice to dress her in that. And then I decided on a little t-shirt, and so both of these items of clothing are really easy to get on, because I was saying last time that there was a problem with the poncho that I made, because it just was really hard to get it over her head. And in fact, Dean has adopted the poncho because he has no problem putting it over his head, and it's keeping him nice and cosy in the chilly weather. So there we go. So he's really happy about that. Yeah, and then I made a nice cosy cardigan for Pearl, and she is really happy. She looks so nice and cosy, and I had such a lovely time when I'd finished all the clothes, and I did block them. I steam blocked them so that they would look even smarter. And then I had a lovely time dressing her. I really love dressing up dolls. I've never ever grown out of it, out of the joy of it. And I don't see why I should either. I know some people think, oh, you know, when you're a grown up, you shouldn't be playing with dolls. I wasn't exactly playing with her, but I had such a nice time putting all of her clothes on. And so I'm very happy with her now. And I just feel like Pearl is very happy as well. And yeah, she's a doll, like lots of dolls that you get that don't actually the pattern doesn't say to put a mouth on. And I love that really, because I think that, well, there's this idea that if you give children a doll that just has eyes and not a mouth, then the doll really can express whatever the child, or adult in my case, is feeling. So sometimes Pearl looks happy, sometimes she looks worried, sometimes she looks, you know, a little bit sad, don't you? But yeah, anyway, so I just love that. Anyway, goodness, I have been rambling on for absolutely ages about all those things. So I'm just going to leave you with a little video of just the first signs of autumn that I've spotted when I've been out and about. And then I'll pop back to say goodbye. All right then, I am going to say goodbye to you now. I hope that you will keep yourself nice and busy and take good care of yourself. And I will be back to see you again very soon. Okay then, bye.